Greetings everyone. Today is March 1st of 23. Let me just give you a glimpse of my fig trees. They are getting even bigger now and even have beginnings of a main crop, which is amazing. I am gonna make a video, an update on my fig grow room. Hello. But this video will be a Fig Talk episode answering questions. One of the questions that I had was about my plans, how to transition my fig trees to outside. And that is possibly the most critical part of this method that I'm gonna do with my fig trees. I'm gonna also include Head Start, because Head Start comes before transitioning, and talk about that first. First, about the fig tree or Ficus carica, what we are growing is a subtropical species, from Middle East and Northern India, and it was introduced to Mediterranean. It is a species that enjoys a long growing season with very hot, dry summers. Here in the United States, areas in California, like Santa Barbara and alike, are mostly resembling that Mediterranean climate. For us, growing fig trees in colder climates, zone 7A, 7B and colder, I'm in zone 6A, and we are growing fig trees in containers, we have to think of a way how to extend our season. And that's basically a Head Start, extension of a growing season. Now, looking at some websites, like WeatherSparks, and there is many websites, some of them are from the universities in your state. They will provide information about growing days and also which months are the rainiest, longest days and such. They will be very helpful. For example, in my area, and you can even include your zip code to be even more precise, we have about 156 growing days in a year, on average. Can be 107 in some years, or even lower. And then compared to, let's say, Santa Barbara, which has 340 days, that's a big difference. It is much easier for growers figs in California to ripen a late ripening variety. And it just happens that most of these most delicious varieties are of late ripening varieties, like Black Madeira types, Caldedamas and such. So if we would like to grow and taste those varieties, especially, we will have to give our trees a head start. And I can think of 3 possible ways to give a tree a head start, and that is by extending the season at the beginning of the year, at the end of the year, and then combination of both. And in my early starts, I was thinking about combining both. However, then I realized that they will just add more work, more physical work, bringing the trees indoor and then taking them outside, and these trees are getting bigger and heavier. It's much more work instead of me just giving them ample head start at the beginning of the season. However, I can see a possible benefit, a scenario for growers. Some of you, maybe they're growing in containers in humid areas. And for example, if a rainy season is coming, bringing those trees indoor and finishing ripening in these conditions under the lights will be beneficial. Those figs would not split. Many varieties will split their fruit in too much rain, too much moisture. Also, in those times, there will be more infestation of, let's say, spotted big Drosophila or SWD. So there will be another benefit of ripening those figs indoor. For me, in my climate, I generally do not have any kind of problems with SWD, and I chose to just give an ample extension or head start at the beginning of season, and this year I'm giving an extra month since just in case something unexpected happens. And in my last 2 seasons, I give you my experience. 2021, 2020 and 19, I was just starting to buy, new varieties, so the trees were smaller. But in 21st, I had taken my trees outside on May 10th, and it just happens that around May 10th, that's about our last frost day. You have to, again, look at those websites to know what is your last frost date. And it just happened on May 15th that we had unexpected frost, temperature down to 32, 31 degrees. Probably 80% of the trees had received damage. And then in that case, the head start is lost. Those damaged leaves, they have to regrow again. And so last year, the quite opposite happened. I took them outside, sprayed them with a kaolin or surround, it's called spray, which is a very fine micronized kaolin clay, like a white powder film that's mixed with water and coats the leaves. And it's also very good for seedlings of vegetables, for example. And even though I applied 2 coats of surround spray, it did not help. That morning, the next morning actually, around 10:30, 11 o'clock, when the sun came, it was very bright, very strong. And again, the trees were sunburned. And many of them lost their leaves, and some of them, they kept the leaves, but they were just deformed for the rest of the season. So again, the head start is lost. So in my case, I have to wait till the danger of the frost is first over, is not there, and then when I take my trees outside, I will this time place them under the shade cloth. It's a cloth that you can buy in rolls, and I have area that's 50 feet by 6 feet and 6 feet in height. So pretty much I'm gonna cramp all my trees in there and add maybe an extra layer of a shading cloth just in case if there's some strong sun. And then during the day, in the morning, if I'm at home, I will uncover them and then cover them again during the midday. And then again, late afternoon, I will uncover them again so they can gradually get exposure to the daylight and sun. Very beneficial is, I can give you a tip on that. If you see in a forecast that the weather will be rainy and overcast and possibly for 2-3 days, that will be ideal to take your trees outside to get a really nice shower. Don't know exactly what the shower is. I read something about rainwater and the benefits it can has on the trees, and I can see that the trees are just rejuvenated, just some X factor when they are getting rain on their leaves. Not the same as if you sprinkling with the water. And so those will be ideal conditions how to transition them properly in the most ideal way. Another way will be to maybe place them in the shaded area provided from some structure like a house or garage, or even a solid fence on a north side maybe. For the first week or 2, and that's not a thing. So usually about 2 weeks, I would think the transition will be enough, again depending on conditions, on how bright the sun is, how hot the weather is. But I'm going to aim for about 2 to 3 weeks of transition before they are accustomed to the full sun, so I can then place them into their spot in orchard. Another way of transitioning will be, and giving them a head start, I forgot to mention that, is for somebody who has maybe only 1 tree, which I did in the beginning with my Hardy Chicago, to take them in the living room and place them next to the sunny window, preferably southern exposure, and they will give them an ample head start that way. You can bring them in February, in March, anytime, especially for the Hardy Chicago type. but any type, any and even late ripening varieties, that will be really a good way, or perhaps in a sunroom also, or traditionally what I did that in before in previous years, dozen of years before that. I did not get as much of a head start that way, but this is a traditional way what I see that many growers are doing. They're keeping their fig trees in containers in storage areas like garages and sheds, and then in the very late winter, early spring, just like today, maybe it was a perfect day, bringing them outside, get them exposed to the sun, and the weather is not too, too hot, too warm, and then bringing them indoor, and that's that term shuffling. That's also a very good way of giving them a head start. However, I can see the difference of giving the trees a head start or growing them into a fig grow room. Now, one possible scenario that I can see that my trees could not benefit, and especially some varieties like early ripening varieties maybe, is if they are given too much of a head start. This year I started them at January 16th, I believe, first day when I fully and I turned my lights on. I already see starts up of main crop, 2 bumps on my my branches. So that means that now I can calculate, and let's say the early varieties need about 90 days, 3 months from the beginnings of these small bumps or small figlets to when they are fully ripe. And then you have mid-season varieties, ripening varieties that maybe need about 100, 110 days. And then those very late ripening varieties that maybe need the most, possibly 120, 30, 40 days. Again, depending on the climate, how much of sun exposure you have. And I do not really necessarily want my trees to ripen their fruit in May. And it could happen, I don't know, I have to see now. But June, definitely, I will have some of the early varieties. I would estimate late June, early July, probably they will be ripe by then for sure. So you don't want to give them too much of a head start. After this season, I will have a really good picture of if everything goes smoothly for the rest of the year, especially the transitioning, and then I will make an adjustment for the next year, how much of a head start I really need, and also depending on which variety I will keep, because I do have many varieties, and this year I will sell some of the varieties that just I find pretty much the same, or I do also have copies. So I hope that this was helpful. If I think of anything else, I will maybe add in a post or make another video. Thank you for watching, and have a great night. Bye-bye.